Yeah. Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Bold Hearted. Today, I'm super excited because now we have taken this podcast to the other end of the world, other side of the world, Australia. And our guest today is Elinor Moshe. Moshe, how do you pronounce that, Elinor?
Moshe.
Moshe, perfect. I'm glad you corrected me on camera, so now everyone knows how to say it well. So yeah, I want to introduce Eleanor, and then I would love for you to say hello to our audience too. So Eleanor Moshe is basically a powerhouse. She is a thought leader, a 4 times author, podcast host, and co-founder of Truth of You. As a podcast host of Deconstructing You, she delves deep into deconstructing paradigms, patterns, and psyches to experience the truth of you by healing and journeying into the invisible and unknown. This was brought on by her own spiritual awakening, realized the success became the suffocation with no self-love, respect, or honor remaining in her split realities. Now, she's an accomplished author, and her upcoming book, Powerhouse in Prison, delves deeply into mental shackling, preventing us from experiencing the truth of ourselves, coming out next year. So I'm so excited to welcome Eleanor to this podcast. Welcome, Eleanor.
Thank you, Sabahat, for the opportunity to have this conversation. It's more important than even I realized as I was journeying to where I am today. So thank you so much. And a pleasure
Oh,
to be the first international. So to
yeah.
more international guests for your show.
Exactly. More international, the better. Because honestly, the thing is that what we face is it's the same, right? From one part of the globe to the other. The same, we're all
Exactly.
facing very similar struggles in our professional journeys, our personal journeys, our traumas, our getting through our traumas, getting through mental obstacles, making those pivot, right? There's the same, I hear the same kind of struggles happening, the same kind of mental obstacle happening. I'm sure you do too.
Absolutely. It's universal in our experience, and geography poses no limitation on the ability for people to connect with others, to learn and overcome. And podcasting has been imperative for me to plug back into the world and the community when the old one was outgrown. So conversations like this, which aid to shift people's perspectives, and shows like yours is very important. So again, honored to be here.
Yeah. And I want to start off right away with drawing a parallel here. I know that Eleanor, and I'll let you talk on that, but I know you started your career in construction management. You started with architecture and then construction management, and then you sort of went down the coaching path. And I'm sort of outlining that because for our guests and listeners here, for our listeners here, because they know that I also started in engineering, project management, construction, and then now I'm podcasting, coaching, etc. as well. So I want to draw this parallel here just to demonstrate that people's life journeys can be similar no matter where you are in the world and where you are pursuing. So tell me a little bit more about that. What happened there? How did you transition from such a very traditional path? I like to call it traditional career path to, kind of not breaking free. I don't want to say that. I don't want to make it sound like one was sort of in shackles, but sort of breaking free from your own mental thoughts and saying, I want to try something completely new and try a new paradigm.
Of course, I did work in corporate construction for 8 years, and it was late 2017, 18, somewhere in there that I started asking myself questions. What do I value? What would I really like to do? And a few things were happening in parallel. One, I started tutoring in construction, and I made good money on just weekends. And the conversations with the students also started shifting to, well, what do I do with my career? And I realized if I have this question and they have this question, there might be something there. At the same time, I was starting to see the incongruency between if I just trade my time for money, there will still always be a limit, but I'm still not in control of it in corporate. So there started to be hairline cracks in the perceived safety of having a corporate job. I did then found the construction coach, and it came to me in April, I think 2019. Those years kind of blur, and we had an extended break of shutdown periods as we did in the industry. They did. It's not me anymore. And it shows where your thinking's at.
Right?
And I was working on an extremely toxic site. It was completely antithetical and paradoxical to my value system. Of course, I didn't know it then, but I wasn't aware enough of myself that I was getting more sick. I was mentally depleted. I was getting, that you play political games, and I had a great run in the industry, so I thought I loved this career in construction. And I was not ready to play the big political game, not just with site management teams, but executive teams as well. So it started seeping into my life like a cancer. And being away from that side, I was finally able to ideate. So I
Yeah.
got the idea of the construction coach. It started off as just a blog. Well,
Hmm.
only a blog. I shouldn't disrespect it for being a blog, because it started opening up so many new opportunities. And from that came the training, from that came the book. And before I knew it, there was clients. I was writing the book. I had my first show, Constructing You, and I had a great run for 2 years up until I left corporate. And we can go into that stage two separately if needed, but more than happy to, of course, talk about it. But I had the external success, and I thought it was my success, but there were many reasons why even that career, I pioneered that space. I was the first to broach the bridge between construction and careers. No one was talking about this. There were other construction coaches, but they were either talking about accounting, they were either talking about actual the technical
Yes.
nature of construction management. I know I was the first to broach the people and construction bridge at a point in time where podcasting wasn't even a thing in the industry,
Yeah.
not even as a parallel side hobby for anyone on any topic. It was, all of these were just no-go zones. And the network, increased really quickly, as did the influence. And yeah, I'll stop up until exiting corporate, because that's when things did really start to change, despite having what many people would keel over and would have happily traded places for.
That's so interesting, like what you're saying. And I love that you said, okay, that's phase one. That was the first phase, right? And then there's other phases that happen. So let us pause there and let's dive into that a little bit more, because I know what you mean so much, right? Like there was the money was great, right? And you've built a reputation and you've built a name for yourself, and you get things done, and you know your stuff, and your people know you. You have a reputation. Things are good, but there's things underneath the surface, right? There's just like the stress, the environment is like, okay, this is very rough. It's like, you kind of feel a little bit energized, like I can still get things done, like I'm still doing great, but you also like it takes a toll on you, right? Because it's so almost so like you said, it's so different from your value system, and you're almost having to put on this new act every time you're working, right? So that I totally know what you mean. I myself had like almost like like it's not a stress breakdown, but almost like I felt like at one point in my construction career, I almost went on stress leave, because I was like, this is a lot. But then eventually I didn't go on stress leave. I just quit that job because I needed to just step away. So, and I think a lot of people deal with that too, whether it's construction careers or other careers as well. The golden handcuffs is real, right? So how did you, for example, say, you know what, this money is good, but it is taking a toll on me? Like, when did you realize that my mental health and my well-being and my living according to my values was more important than looking good on the outside?
Fantastic question, and we could be here for 5 hours,
I
but
know. And I'm
it's
sure people probably Google this
loaded.
every day, because so many people feel this every single day.
That's right. The decline didn't happen straight away, and I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
So that's a testament to, I have been disconnected from my body and soul for 30 years, because I have never been anything other than my mother's daughter. Therefore, anything that I built on top of that belief system from being a 4-year-old was never mine to begin with. So everything was always going to be a house of sand, because it was not mine. I
Right.
thought it was mine, and this is the wonderful trick of the deep psyche. You think it is yours, but if it is yours, it will sustain itself. And if it is
Mm,
not for you, it will fall over. So
mm.
I quit corporate, which is everything that I ever wanted.
I love that.
And
I'll just pause you for 1 second, what you said. I love like when my guests say stuff that's like, oh, that's like really cool. Like you said, if it's for you, if it's yours, it's coming from you, if it is, it will sustain itself. And if it's not your voice, not your whatever's happening in the background, it will fall over. It won't sustain itself because it's not yours. I love that.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the soul does not experience burnout when it but this is also where we're not going to go too esoteric, but the soul will also want to experience it. It is not for it. There's many layers
Mm.
to that. So we do need to go through these paradoxical experiences to come back to ourselves, unless from the get-go we are given the tools, but there are a set of soul lessons that we have incarnated for. But we'll go back to
Yes.
the original
Bye bye.
story.
Yeah.
So
We'll come back to this later.
I did I quit corporate and I thought things would now be on the ascend. I laid the foundations. By then I had two books out. My show was 100,000+ downloads. I had the brand, there was the recognition. Sure, there were hiccups like everything, but as you said, the success was out there and I had become a known name in the industry.
Yeah.
But I started unconsciously making very poor career decisions for myself. I did not know that at the time. So I had the external decline by saying yes to things that I fundamentally shouldn't.
Mhm.
And because of my patterning, for people who are maternal or paternal impactors, I do not have boundaries. I do not have a voice. In one-on-one relationships, I do not have the ability to assert my own right, to assert my own power. And it is my disposition to, I will give you everything until I have nothing left.
Yeah.
And that is what I did. But now I was doing that both on my internal reality, which was causing immense suffocation and depression. But now I was also doing that on my external reality. But the thing on the external, it seemed like I was going up, but I wasn't even aware of the signs. I was doing the doing. It's not that you can't function. I was doing the doing, but clients were leaving. I was not able to sign up
Mhm.
clients.
Mhm.
Cash flow was going the other way, but I wasn't even aware that cash
Right.
flow was going the other way because I knew if I had tried to express any sort of dissatisfaction, as I have my whole life, it immediately gets compared, but you have this, or you aren't grateful. So it's an immediate shutting down, which
Yeah.
is again the pattern established over decades. None of this was established just because I quit corporate. This is patterning that has always, for 30 years, been in existence, but it had to reach its highest crescendo for me to have that mental, spiritual, whatever breakdown you wanted, because I was not seeing that. This was not good for me. Enough was enough.
Yeah.
And that is where the journey of deconstructing myself had to happen, because anything that I was trying to build on was built on a psyche that was unattended to. That was, again, not mine. And I didn't realize it was not mine, because that is an amazing trick of the mind to say, no, this is yours. You need to do this. It's a sunk cost fallacy as well. I started this. I invested a lot into mentoring, a lot into my books, a lot into my brand, a lot into my shows. I was under my own illusion as well, my own shackling that I need to keep this going. And
Yes.
then it did fell over and I couldn't speak. The fact that I am even speaking about this now was a foreign thought to me when it was all coming down,
Mm.
because one, I couldn't identify myself outside, this was last year, outside of being my mother's daughter. Two, who could I be outside of the construction coach? Because I thought I built this.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, I had,
Yeah.
but it was still foundationed on a belief system and a psyche that was not mine.
Yeah.
So, how this manifested, yeah, it was burnout. It was the inability to wake up in the morning. It was being the heaviest weight-wise I ever was. It was simply soul level fatigue that was being manifested in my reality. But out there, it was the appearance that it was all going well and you're this and you're that. But inside, there was simply deadness, not aliveness.
Oh my gosh. And so powerful, Eleanor. Like inside it was deadness, not aliveness, right? And I think a few things that you said there that I kind of sort of reminded me of some things I had heard before is that, you know, people don't make a change until the pain that they're feeling outweighs the status quo. the pain just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. At one point, it's just because, most people, right? Like they're just, if a status quo, they'll just rather keep a status. They're like, I'm not quite happy with this. I'm not quite feeling good. But then they will just keep a status quo. It's just easier, right? And people only make a change when the pain gets so big that the pain of staying the same is more painful now. That's when they're like, I just can't stay the same. I have to make a change, right? And that's what happened to you too. Like you felt the physical symptoms, the mental symptoms, emotional symptoms, right?
Absolutely. It just got to enough. And you're right about the pain. I was so emotionally shut down from myself that I had to suppress the pain. And if you suppress the pain, you also suppress the pleasure. So I've only ever known this middle band,
Yeah,
this mundane, this exactly what you said, this status quo living. It's just this middle band. It's
yeah,
vanilla.
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
great.
yeah. And it's so interesting, right? That you say that, like, and coming from what you're saying, like you're not even like in a job and it's just middle ground. You just like you left the job, you kind of build something else on your own. So people are like, wow, Eleanor is killing it. She built something of her own, but yeah, you were still inside. You're like, it is still not mine, right? And that brought me to this other thought that I've always like thought of is that the whole idea of identity, right? Your identity was so intertwined in the construction coach, right? That it was hard for you to break free of that. And so many of us feel that like my identity is that I'm an engineer. How can I stop being an engineer after 15 years? How can I stop being um, an accountant after 15 years? It is there's a sunk cost you talked about, everything I've invested into this so much, but that is my identity. And then if they take it away, who am I?
That's right. Absolutely. That was massive.
Yeah.
And it's ironical because I would tell people, well, don't attach your identity to your corporate. But then
Yes.
I had done that to the next identity that I had also
Yes.
built. And it's like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And and I did because I had no foundation. I had no sense of self. Sure, we need, you introduced me. Yes, we need to have a character in the world. Otherwise, people will not, if I say I'm a light being, it's like, what, well, how's that going to land with, how's that going to land with people, right? So I
Yeah.
get that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was one of the hardest things for me to also start because I didn't know there would be this liminal stage where I'm not that and I'm not where I need to be, but I'm in this in between space. And I didn't see how I could keep things going
Yeah.
externally, but
Yeah.
I wasn't meant to try and keep things going externally. It was meant to crumble. It had to be deconstructed because it was, and I did get around to consolidating those thoughts because I thought what was being presented was authentic, but it was not. It was not foundationed on the truth of me. It was foundationed on patterns and psyches that were given to me through impactors throughout my life. They were
Right.
not mine.
Trained
And that's when,
behaviors. You had trained yourself to keep acting a certain way. You would keep getting the feedback from the outside world and be like, yes,
yes,
you're right. Ah,
yes,
keep going, right?
the feedback loop. Yes, thank you so much for mentioning that because the accolades start coming in. There's that it's such a deep level of reinforcement that the world gives you. The world awards you for being inauthentic.
Or
And
being put in a box to have a here's your label, bam, right? And then
exactly,
you will keep giving you rewards for you, and you're like, I'm this, or you've outgrown the label sometimes. You've outgrown the box, and it's like world's like, what do you mean? Get back in that box.
exactly. And
Yeah.
you're the one who is also reinforcing that box. It's deep in there.
Yeah.
But it was what I had to do when I received that message is that I needed to reinvent, but I was so scared of doing that
Mhm.
also because I thought I built this image and to a certain extent I did, but also when you want to start breaking out of the idea of you, people around you do not like that and will not support that from the get-go either. And that
Yeah.
was an unconscious narrative as to why I was also holding on, because I wasn't holding on for me. It was for others on a deep unconscious level. And I'm saying this now, but I was not aware of that at that point in time.
And Eleanor, to recognize that and then still sort of shed all that requires so much bravery and courage and boldness, right?
It
Like
is.
absolutely. Like I think, and that is so commendable. So you're obviously a very commendable person as an individual, not because of your accolades, but to be able to do that, to be able to be like, I have all of this that the world has responded wonderfully to, right? And given me all these like accolades and everything, right? That come with it. But I still, you recognize the need to be authentic, and you did that, right? With the courage that came out, the boldness that came out, the bravery, like kudos to you. So respectable.
It's all within us, but as you said, sometimes the pain has to get so
So,
intense that you just look yourself dead straight in the eye and you don't know how you're going to dig yourself out of some things. I did not know. The path was not known. But when the conscious mind has fried itself, I'm paraphrasing, it's a quote by Jung, but when the conscious mind has exhausted itself, the unconscious will come to aid.
I love that. Who's that quote by?
Jung, I've paraphrased. Might want
I
to,
love that. I love that. That's a great, when the
but that's a
conscious mind
quote.
has exhausted itself, the unconscious mind will intervene. Is that what you said?
It will intervene.
I love
It
that.
knows what to do, but the conscious mind has to finally surrender to it and say, I'm I'm done. I got myself into this mess. I don't know how to get myself out of these realities. Because also it's not that I wasn't manifesting, journaling,
Yeah.
doing the things, but it was mechanical at best, and it wasn't working anymore because the mental, physical, spiritual, emotional bodies were not in alignment. So mentally, I could tell you I would like the success. And sure, we would all want a version of that. But my emotional body was trapped in another timeline. My physical body was just numbed out and disassociated and not even here with me. So,
Mm-hmm.
of course, a vision board where you're trying to manifest your highest timeline is not going to work. So, it wasn't that I was not doing anything in those years to try and get myself out. But then it's like all these tools are not working. It's like, how can I cut down a tree with a spoon? It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. Yes, exactly. And okay, so I want to talk about the four different types of things that you talked about, like physical, emotional, mental. Could you tell me more about that? Let's tell maybe it's for me sometimes one of the things I haven't heard too much about. So I'm sure the same with the audience too.
Well, I didn't either until you get introduced the concept that we do have more than one body. You, as Sabahat, are not just the what I am seeing right now. There is your spiritual body, your auric field, and
Mm.
that carries around the memories of all the times you have dishonored your spiritual sense. There is the physical body, every the meat sack that is sitting right here
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
and operating and interacting with the world. It's the home of our five senses. If we take away our five senses, our realities cease to exist.
Mhm.
So this body was never paid attention to. Imagine dragging around another human being and wanting them to do everything from you, but never giving them any respect, any honor, any attention, not even asking, how are you? And when the veil on my physical body was lifted, I just broke down in how many years I spent not living in here
Yeah.
and thinking that I could just demand anything I want from it and not even ask it, how are you? And then not even paying attention to the symptoms or when it was screaming. Then the emotional body. So let's say, Sabahat, you have not offended me right now, but let's say you had,
Mhm.
and I swallowed that truth. It's going somewhere. It needs to live somewhere. So it will live as an unprocessed emotion somewhere until it is transmuted. Too much of too many emotions that are not that are not expressed will simply get stored, and then that will have its ailments across other bodies. And then there is the mental body. So the one that is right
Mhm.
now thinking, I'm aware, I'm sitting in front of a laptop, microphone, speaking to you at the moment. This is the narrative that I am giving myself. But when all of these four bodies are not A, talking to each other, B, not in a relationship with each other, C, we don't have awareness that we are more than right now I'm sitting here and speaking to you character, then we are not in a relationship with ourselves. We are not connecting with ourselves. And what if we're not connected with ourselves, then the mind still needs to attach to another ideology. So it will attach itself to something else. And
Right.
then this, of course, has implications.
Yes, yes. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel that the physical body is probably one of the last ones to get the message, to get the signal, right? I think all the other bodies get their feedback, decide on the things and do the things, or are thinking of a certain thing, and then they're just the physical body is the last one to get the signals. And then they kind of physical body doesn't really have a mind of its own, right? We're getting the signals from like what am I, what should I be doing, how should I be feeling? And then that's why, right? Like, and because of that, like it doesn't have a way to tell us that whether we're on the right path or not, right? Which is why we get dis-ease, we get stress in our bodies and our backs hurt because it's just getting all the feedback from the mental, the emotional, the mind. Is that correct?
The yeah, there's two parts. So the emotion is manifest in the physical. So yeah, the back pain. So
Oh.
that region, where is it closely tied to? It's your root and your sacral area. So it's your energetic body. So why do I have pains there? I've had shoulder pains and for as long as I can remember, because it is literally significant of carrying the weight of others.
Mm.
So all of these things do talk to each other, but the body itself has immense intelligence. The body is where our divine feminine energetic lives. And let's say I was having a coffee with you and your vibes were off.
Mhm.
My body, if I was aware, it would probably start leaning to the side, away from you, or it would go back.
We would
Right
shrink.
now, I'm convinced
We would
you will
shrink.
start to shrink. Yeah, I won't look you in the eye.
Yeah.
My hands might get um dry or clammy. My
Yeah.
mouth might start to dry up. It will be telling you, but the thing is we're not paying
We're not paying
attention to
attention.
anything.
We never
We're not
listen to
paying
the
attention.
signals. We never
We
listen to
don't
the
listen.
signals. That time where I
Exactly.
told you, like one time when one of the jobs that I had in the past that I almost went on stress leave, but I didn't, right? Of course, I
Mhm.
had this
We're paying
nagging
attention.
back pain for months. Like, and I
Uh-huh.
was also doing that time I was on a bit like I had a fitness journey. I was on this fitness journey when I was actually trying to build muscle, right? So I had like a full-on plan that I would go to the gym 3 times a week. So every time, and I would go and always had back pain. I'm like, man, I can't even do my good workouts properly. And I was like, it must be if I just stretch more, if I just roll it out more, if I do all these things that the trainers were telling me, the physiotherapists were doing, nothing would help. And maybe I'm sitting too much, maybe I'm driving too much, all the things we tell ourselves, right? About all the physical symptoms. And then when I told you that one day I'm like, I can't take the stress type of anymore. I need to step away. So I gave in my resignation. Elinor, I kid you not, I think it was, don't remember which day of the week it was. Gave my resignation, had dinner, went to bed. The next morning I woke up, the pain was gone.
Yeah. You can't make that up.
I literally came out of bed for months. I would get out of bed and I would like keel over from pain on my right
Oh
side.
wow. Oof.
At that day, I got out of bed, no more pain. I can't make this. I'm like, what if this was not the biggest signal, right? Showing that all of this was trapped in my body. I don't know what is.
Yeah. Perfect example. Now, like extend that over lifetimes.
Yes, yes. Yes, and we just ignore all that. We ignore the pains and the unhappiness and the stress, right? People like, I think, I'm not sure about Australia, but North America, I think they're saying there's a staggering percentage of people who are stressed, chronic
Mhm.
stress. Probably the same in Australia too, right?
Yeah.
Why is that, right? Is it because we're just ignoring the signals from our bodies and our minds and everything, right?
It's ignorance.
Yeah,
It's until we do not bring awareness
yeah,
to that point
yeah.
and convert. I did the same thing. It's like I'm tired, so I need more sleep.
Right.
It's like no. So again, I did the same thing, trying to address the symptom because that's also how external systems
Work.
deal with you. If
Mhm.
you are healthy and cured, you're not cash flowing their business.
Boom. That's right. If you're
So
healthy and cured, why, if you address a root problem, everyone's going to be healthy. And why would you go to a physiotherapist and a chiropractor and a herbalist and a physical trainer? Like you're not going to.
exactly.
That's
So we are used to also dealing with the symptoms because you look at people around, they are just managing symptoms. They're just getting by at best. And again, that's deadness. That's not aliveness.
no, no. And okay, so So I think we all now we're hopefully our listeners are getting there, that we need to start listening to our bodies more, and we need to, get the courage to start listening to our bodies, see if there's something needs to take a different direction, right? Get all our different the four types of bodies in alignment for us to move forward and actually be disease free and depression free, etc. Now let's just come back up to when you sort of went from construction management to construction coach to deconstructing you now, right? So you've sort of taken a few different journeys. I want to talk about that, right? Because I think it is scary for a lot of people to then, once they've kind of dealt with all of that, down here, that or then they're like, well, before they even go down, they're like, how can I rebrand myself, right? Because you have rebranded yourself so many times. So tell me about that, about all the different ways you've actually then rebranded yourself when people knew you as something else, and now you're like, actually, now I want to try something else. How did that work?
And I'm still very much doing that. This time next year, I plan to be unrecognizable, and I have to be,
Yes.
because I'm actively still shedding so much, but I am aware of what is residual, what is not. There is awareness and consciousness as to, okay, I'm doing this thing and it serves this purpose right now, but I'm still forging whatever it is next. This was one of the things that also scared me as well. I don't say the most, but it was also when people around, I was saying, well, I don't want to do that. It's like, okay, what do you want to do? It's like, it's been 2 minutes. It has
Yes.
actually been,
Tell me about that, right? Like, okay, so what do you want to do then? I don't want
yeah,
to, so what do you want to do? I need some time to process what has happened, right? Sit with myself, actually listen to my thoughts. You know what I mean? Like, because when you're working and doing a thing, you're not listening, you're not sitting and listening to your thoughts. There's
no,
no capacity.
exactly. There is no capacity. Absolutely. And that was a point of frustration. It's like, my best answer is I don't know.
Yes.
And it doesn't allow you to connect with, well, what is next? But that
Right.
was also not the right question to ask. And for many months, I tried to very quickly construct the next thing. It's like, right, it's not that, what is that? But no, it was not what I was being called for. And it was only when I surrendered, it's like, fine, you know what? Human time versus soul time is very different. And I need to let go of the illusion of human time,
Mhm.
because when the soul comes through, lifetimes can shift in a moment. And I sat in that space of, I would be around people. It's like, so what do you do? It's like, I don't know. I don't actually know how to answer this question. So I stopped being around new people as well, because I did not know how to present myself either.
Or even sometimes some old people who've known you for a while, and then they're like, "What are you doing, Sabahat or Eleanor? Like,
Yes,
what is going
exactly.
on?" Like, they're confused, right? Because they're
They're
not in the
confused.
same journey as you are. And like right now, at the moment, I'm just doing my podcast.
Yes.
I'm figuring
Great.
it out. I'm just sitting with this, having some fun, doing a podcast. Like that's what I'm doing, right? What is the rush to put a label on things?
Yep, exactly. And I didn't, and that grace that you have given yourself, that takes a lot of courage as well, because it took me months to get to that point of, it's that liminal space. But also had to recognize that what my conscious mind was aware of, it takes time for the unconscious to come to. These are very deep rooted scripts, behaviors, patterning within that lives within your nervous system, that still lives there. And as much as we want to move and want to do all of these things, that is not what we are being invited to. And there is
Yeah,
a season for things. And, farmer doesn't plant in the middle of winter and then gets mad at the crops for not being there the next day.
absolutely.
It's not, it's not the time for it.
Yeah.
You want things to bloom. It's not also relinquishing or suspending responsibility for it, but it is recognizing that right now the body is so tired, so burnt out on a nervous system level, that I would again be dishonoring myself and continuing the patterns that got me to this to this worst point in my life. So it is recognizing that there is a season for things. And I was not a person who believed that things could change in a year, but my God, they can.
Yeah.
But it does come through honoring the seasons and understanding that, look, you've just been in a war with yourself, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship that you had to leave. You have just been fighting all of your bodies for maybe decades.
Yes.
Now is not the time to go and build. Now is the time to recognize that the bodies need something else from you, and it's not hustle.
It's exactly, it's not hustle. Maybe it will be hustle in a year. Maybe it is, but right now,
Yes.
what it needs is just some recovery, reflection, and maybe some play, right? Maybe that's what it needs
Yes.
to get that back, right? Or to just be on the next step of the journey. And a lot of the time, right, what you said, that the liminal space, right, that we avoid because we're like, oh, we have to jump on to the next thing because of that, the patterning that you mentioned, because that's what we've been told. Like, if you ever take a career break, oh, if you go back out for a job, they're gonna ask you, what were you doing for those 3 months? Like, on the grand scheme of things, how does that matter, right? But is that kind of fear mindset that people are hold on to for so long, and it stops them from saying, okay, let me take a breath, let me reflect. Is this what I still want to be doing?
Absolutely. And it's a luxury. It is difficult to do. And I never thought that I would be saying that, but it is actually difficult to, because it's a completely different way of living, of being a hyper productive, masculinized woman versus learning to fall into and call in other powerful energies that we are not familiar with, because we're only used to one type of reward system. Again, that feedback loop that
Mhm.
you have given. No one ever claps for an adult who's taken a day off to play, but they will because they close that next deal and it's on LinkedIn.
Of course,
So it's a
right?
massive paradigm shift that we're also working with in the middle. So it can only be met with grace and compassion in that stage.
Absolutely. And I think as a society, we have ways to go to accept that reality. And I think it's so needed. It's so needed to sort of decrease the number of stressed out society members we have, and the
Yeah.
mental health breakdowns people are having, and the record high anxiety levels. I don't think there's ever been a time period where there's so much people living with high anxiety, high stress, high depression, right? And what are we ignoring? Like, what are the signs? Because we see it, right? Like, why are we not paying attention? What are we doing about it? Not just like, let's just take a mental health day off work and then us get back on. And to make up for that, I'm going to work extra on the weekend. Like, I don't think that's the answer for that. But of course, I think
Absolutely.
I will also say that you're right. Like, we are lucky to be able to do this, right? To sort of step back and have that period of reflection, because maybe a lot of people don't have the luxury of doing that. Some people might say, well, Sabahat, well, Eleanor, that sounds like a luxury that you guys have. We don't. So I want to recognize that that is not the reality. Maybe some people don't have that privilege or luxury because they have a lot of responsibilities on their shoulders. Maybe they have like 4 kids and they're single parent, right? In that case, they really have to keep grinding it out. I don't have the answer to that, but I do want to recognize that it's not the same for
Of
everyone.
course.
Yeah.
It is not. It is absolutely not when, and this is a major flaw of the system. People are just
Yeah.
locked into that survival mode, and the cash does need to come in. There is
Yeah.
no taking away from an individual who is battling that, of course. And that's what makes it even harder.
Mm-hmm.
That's even more layers onto an individual, which keeps them at such a lower expression
Yeah.
of themselves.
Have to
It
fulfill.
is a privilege, it is a luxury to be able to even have a mental breakdown in today's world.
Oh my gosh, right? Uh, exactly. It's a privilege and a luxury to have a mental breakdown in today's world. Exactly. And that's why I'm saying I think the whole society as a whole needs to shift towards that. I don't think each of us we can be on that journey, but I think as a whole, if the society can shift, that is going to be the most supportive of everybody, of all humans.
I just want to correct it. It's not mental breakdown, it's an emotional breakdown. It is all the
Yeah.
emotions that were not, it is not conscious mind breaking down. It is the emotions that cannot be stored, filed, suppressed anymore. That is what is being broken down. It's a
Broken down,
spiritual,
breakthrough, whatever you want to call it, right? You're right.
whatever you want to call it.
Absolutely.
It's not just the
Absolutely.
mental realm.
No, no, you're right. Absolutely. I'm so glad you called that out because a lot of people listening to it might be like, mental breakdown. No, I mean, I'm not having a mental breakdown, like I'm fine, right? People will think it's something else altogether. It's not that. It's emotional. It's a breaking down of things inside your mind, emotionally, all the things which causes the pain, the discomfort, right? That eventually leads through to a breakthrough.
You have to break down to break out.
Love it. Yeah, you have to break down to break out. So, Eleanor, since we're on the Bold Hearted podcast, what does bold hearted mean to you?
It's known that the heart is the seat of the soul, and it is the heart which is the the window between this reality and, I don't even want to say original reality, but call it the spiritual domain, but it's all really one. They're not separate.
Yeah.
But also the longest journey we will ever take is from our head to our heart. I only had a catharsis of the heart in July last year, meaning I recognized I had one. I recognized that I was never listening to it. And every time it wanted to come through, it would be shut down. Imagine shutting down the heart of a child for 30 years. That's what it was. And when I did realize what I had done, and that my heart has its own desires, intelligences, abilities, and I was not there, it was enlivening and also just heartbreaking as well. And it has taken immense amount of work, and it still is, to allow the heart to come through.
Yeah.
But when I started following my heart, to say that timelines shifted is an understatement. And that may not make sense, but it is because of allowing my heart to come through that things that I thought would never manifest. And when I say never, I thought things would only happen when, shall my parents be healthy and happy? But I thought some things would only happen when my parents would not be here.
Yeah.
And these are dreams that I suspended, I wouldn't say for decades, but at least for 12, 14 years did I suspend things for others. And that's why I drove my career so hard, because it was an escape from not wanting to look at other parts of my life, which were not even flagging or flailing. They were just never online. But when my heart came through and my heart started driving, it's like, I don't, the ego Eleanor that you're speaking to, she should not be driving anything. The heart needs to.
Yeah.
Because that's when the higher self started coming through, and that's when timelines actually started to shift. So to be bold and to be exactly what your podcast name suggests is the only way to live.
That's it.
But that doesn't mean that we know how to get there. It doesn't mean that we know how to listen to our heart. It could, we want to access the heart, but there may be kilometers, and I'm just using physical metrics.
Of
There may
course.
be kilometers of trash that needs to be cleared. Do we need to clear it out one by one? No, you can get a bulldozer and absolutely go in there. Is that recommended? Also, no, because not everyone has safety in people and systems around them to do that. So it's not recommended. Kids, don't try this at home
Yeah.
either. But that is the only way to live. And that is the journey that is worth taking, because when when the seat of the soul gets to speak, your reality can absolutely flip. And I was not a person who believed that that would be possible.
When your soul and your heart at the driver's seat, it's a whole different game we're playing now.
It is. Who wants the ego character to be playing? It doesn't know it. It doesn't know how to drive.
No.
Let the intelligence that actually does know how to drive. And it may take more than 1 year. Let it take 5 years. And I remember also saying that it's like, at this point, I don't care how long things take on a human scale, because I have a whole tanker to turn around. And if
Yeah.
a tanker can't do a 90-degree turn, it will topple over. But 1 degree over a long course, it will be so far gone from where it thought it was going, because we need to listen to our heart. And again, I didn't believe any of that. And that is, and I'm aware that listening to a heart, that's flat advice. If you have never been somewhere, you have no trust with it, you have no relationship with it, why would you listen to it?
So
It's
true. You're so
it's
true.
it, yeah,
Yeah, people think, oh, that sounds so fluffy, like whatever, right? I'm saying a lot of like the very like technical minded people who only followed their heart, the head and their ego for so long. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, sure, Eleanor Sabahat, like I'm done listening to this, right? But you're right.
exactly.
Just said, like, if you don't trust, you have no built no trust with it, you don't even know where it can take you.
That's right. And that takes time to build. So you know, people listening's like, fine, I'll listen to about how. You don't know how. It's a completely new relationship with new tools that you do not have that need to be built. So conscious that this is not something that anyone can just do via someone telling you to do it. It's the equivalent of saying, Sabahat, just be happy. It's like, well, do you think I want to be like this?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Tell me how.
Yeah, exactly. So it is still important though for people to hear this because I wasn't told, Eleanor, listen to your heart.
Yeah, no. Oh my gosh. God,
That's
no.
why I was shut down.
God, no. We were never told to do that. No, like at least I don't know about your background, right? Like from my background, like absolutely not. Like we were never told to listen to her. Like, okay, go to school, get your grades, get your degrees, get your accolades, get your like all the things behind my name. Like I got a list of little abbreviations behind
List of letters.
husband makes fun of it. It's like, oh, how many more are you gonna get? And I'm like, no more. It's a promise. I'm not gonna get any more. Right. So that's the thing is those things is what's it's never like, okay, listen to your heart. Like, is this making you happy? Like that's never the question that's asked or an advice that's given. It's like you don't have to like never listen to your heart. It's just do your thing, get that promotion, get that job, get them more money, get, all that.
For the first time in my life, I'm living through feelings
Yeah.
and it feels wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
The doubt kicks in, but they are a compass. And this isn't to say you should always do what you feel because too much of anything is not good. Even too much meditation is not good.
Mm.
You can, we're not saying to become hedonistic or, so
Yeah.
self-centered because you've never put yourself first. Too much of anything is not good. But when major life decisions are involved and even just honoring yourself, do you want to eat this right now? It's like, well, no, I'm not. I don't want to eat this because everyone else is making me eat. Like it works on both the macro and micro levels, but
Yeah.
living from the paradigm of feeling is like learning to walk all over again. This is what it means to also rebirth yourself. You don't know what it is like until you actually take one step and then another step on this path to start living from a completely different
Yeah.
mind, body, soul that you have not been in before.
And like bring the heart to the decision making table, right? Like that's it. Before it
Yeah.
wasn't there at all. It was somewhere else. Like you have your board of directors and the heart was not there. It was not even in
No.
the room. It's somewhere else. Like, it's just like
No.
invited to the table. That's what we're saying. We're not
Yeah.
saying it has given unilateral power to run everything. Well, that's not what we're saying. It's just but invited to the table. Let it have a say. Let it have an equal say, for example, right? To make your decisions. If you give it a
Absolutely.
chief heart officer, bring it in, right? So, okay, so we're running to the end of our episode today. So I want to ask you, Eleanor, what advice do you have for people who want to also be brave, also find courage to make some bold decisions, right? And blaze their own trail. What advice do you have for them?
Without staying on for the next 15 minutes is you're either living under the truth of you or you're either living under the illusion of you. You can't be living in both. And you have been given this opportunity to discover what is the truth. Everything else will follow. Everything else will follow. But it does take courage, as you said in that first instance. And if you're not living for yourself, then who are you living for?
You only get one shot, right? You only get one shot at this. How are you going to live it? Are you going to listen to yourself? Are you going to listen to everybody else and you just guess ignore it throughout your lifetime? Like, what a sad story, right? Yeah. But
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
you know what? There's a better way, of course. I don't want to end on a downer, right? I think it's like we listened to Eleanor's story. Like there's there's so much digging and uncovering and deconstructing that can happen. But when that happens, it can be so fulfilling and freeing and authentic. It just feels like a completely
Yes.
new world. And how exciting is that? Right.
For the first time in a very long time, I can dream again. I can aspire again.
Yeah.
I can I can do things again. I am actively relearning what it means to be in the world, and not just on one pillar of career success, but all pillars, all systems go all at once.
To
And I
be
won't settle for
fully
anything less this time round.
exact, to be full enough, fully Elinor Moshe, right?
That's it.
Exactly. So now, if people who are listening want to find you and learn more about amazing Elinor Moshe, where can they find you on the internet? Do you want them to find you? Because I know you want to be completely unrecognizable next year. So where do you want people to find you if you want them to?
Unrecognizable, but still visible. So Elinor Moshe on LinkedIn and the Elinor Moshe on Instagram.
Love that. And I will, of course, link all those information in the show notes as well. So make sure you check her out because she has amazing, as you saw, insights and such great thoughts that we don't hear very often in our day-to-day conversations. And we also would love to have people listen to your podcast, right? Called Deconstructing You.
Deconstructing you. All the unconscious garbage is actively shared there
Love it.
because as what you're doing, it all gives people permission. And that's sometimes what we do need just to get going is that permission slip and saying, you know what, Sabahat's done it. I'm going to do it too. That's all we need at first. And then the path unravels
Yeah.
as it is. So thank you so much for also having the courage and bravery to do whatever you are doing or not doing at
Yeah.
this point in time,
Yeah.
which is excellent.
Exactly. It is whatever we're doing right now or not doing. And that is excellent. And thank you all for tuning in. And I hope you also all have an excellent day and feel free to go ahead and lean in, listen to your heart, listen to where things are taking you. Stop for a second and remember that you too can be brave and be bold hearted. Thank you.